Hey guys, good afternoon and good evening. This is Anupam Bonanthaya. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Aujas. Let me cover a little bit about today's session and give a little introductions about Aujas and about our speakers. Aujas, we are an information risk management company. We help in consulting and services around information risk management. We are an IDG invested company. We have 6 offices across US, Middle East, and India. We work with around 400 customers globally, around 22 countries, and we are a team of 380 people, professionals in the company. Let me talk a little bit about what we do. We provide professional services. So these are our practices around risk advisory, entry and access management, threat management, security intelligence and operations, digital security. We also have a platform called SAVP, which is a security analytics and visualization platform. There are different use cases. You can use it for different purposes, starting from vulnerability management to GRC to data leakage, etc., etc. We provide managed services as well as a platform as a services, which is a combination of the platform plus the services. So this is a brief about what we do. Let me get to today's session. Today's topic is about managing cybersecurity risk with using RSA Archer. RSA is our partner, and we have 3 speakers today. Tarun Ambani. Tarun is the practice head for risk advisory for Middle East. We have Vikram Sharma. Vikram Sharma is the global GRC lead, managing the Center of Excellence for Archer. By the way, we have one of the largest number of Archer installations across the globe, with around 20 plus installations completed so far. We also have Khalid Majid. Khalid is a senior consultant at RSA, a partner. RSA is the security division of Delhi MC. And so today we have all 3 guys covering this session. Before I hand it over to Tarun for the agenda, let me just give a little bit about housekeeping rules. First is all of you have been put on mute, mainly to avoid background noise. Having said that, we do encourage you asking us questions, and so at any time, if you have any questions or any comments that you want to make, please do so by using the chat session in front of you. So you can chat with us, you can send your questions using the chat session, and we'll make sure to answer these questions at the end of the session as part of the Q&A. So thank you so much. Thank you. Really appreciate you joining today's call. And I hand it over to Tarun to talk about the agenda and start the session. Tarun, over to you.
Thank you, Anupam. A very good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the audience based on wherever you are located. In today's webinar, the agenda is to understand the need for cybersecurity, how to effectively implement a cybersecurity program, how can the program be automated using RSA Archer GRC, and this would be followed by a solution demonstration by RSA on the Archer solution itself. Moving on to the first agenda item for the need for cybersecurity. Cybersecurity has been a growing concern for organizations the world over. Cybersecurity can be defined as the protection of systems, networks, and data in cyberspace. One of the main areas of focus in cybersecurity is the protection against cyber threats that can come in many forms, such as malware, hacking, exploits, and social engineering attacks, whether they are conducted by insiders or outsiders. Organizations across industry verticals have been affected by cyber threats. Some of the prominent cases of data breach include Anthem at 80 million records, Yahoo at 500 million records, eBay at 145 million records. Many cases have also been observed in the Middle East. Most notable of them has been the Saudi Aramco attack in 2012. Over the course of this year as well, cyber attacks in the Middle East have increased by 15% in Q1 of 2016. Coming to the comparison of cyber attacks in 2014 and 2015, we see that cyber attacks have significantly increased in the year 2015. Attacker motivations range from cybercrime activism to cyber espionage and cyber warfare. Attacks for cybercrime purposes increased by 4.7% year-on-year. From an industry comparison perspective, banking and e-commerce have been the majority targets across industry sectors. The top 10 attacks that have been observed in 2014 and 2015 include SQL injection, defacement, targeted attack, distributed denial of service, account hijacking, malware, malvertising, malicious iframe JavaScript, DNS hijacking, and cross-site scripting. It is important to note that SQL injection attacks increased to 17.5% versus 12.8% in 2014. Targeted attacks as well as distributed denial of service attacks also increased over the year. The motivations and capabilities of cyber attackers have evolved over time. Cyber attackers can be divided into 5 groups: unsophisticated attackers, sophisticated attackers, corporate espionage, organized crime, and state-sponsored attackers or terrorists. Recent years have seen a significant rise in organized crime networks using cyber attacks for monetary gain, as well as state-sponsored attacks for conducting military and political objective activities. Another thing that has been noticed across the decades is that easily available and fully functional plug-and-play exploits, as well as toolkits, have reduced time to exploit information systems as well as increased the effectiveness of the attack. More recently, advanced persistent attacks and ransomware have gained prominence. Advanced persistent attacks are those that are strategically planned and systematically executed over a prolonged period of time to achieve maximum gain for the attacker. Ransomware is a type of malware that prevents or limits users from accessing their system either by locking the system screen or files unless a ransom is paid to the attacker. This figure depicts the evolution of ransomware over time. As it can be noticed, the early detection of ransomware was detected in 1989. CryptoLocker has widely been regarded as the modern ransomware, and many enhancements as well as improved variants of ransomware have evolved since then. Coming to the top challenges in implementing a cybersecurity program. Some of the key challenges that organizations face include evolving the existing information security organization and practices in the light of cybersecurity, enhancing the risk management methodology as well as the risk assessment practices. Most organizations have diverse security point solutions that have been implemented for specialized security activities. Integrating those diverse point solutions has been one of the primary challenges. An important point to note is that when referring to cyber attacks, it is vital to have proactive threat intelligence as well as the awareness of the hackers' capabilities and activities that have been evolving on the dark web. Event correlation and monitoring effectiveness is also one of the key challenges that many CISOs and organization heads have faced. Situational awareness as well as timely response is also one of the key challenges. In order to implement an effective cybersecurity program, it is important to understand that the cybersecurity framework, although comprised of traditional information security areas, including IS risk management, compliance, identity access management, data protection, security management, monitoring and response, IT management, continuity and recovery, does span beyond these areas. Apart from implementing a layered and defense in-depth approach for security controls and security solutions, the core of a cybersecurity program involves real-time threat intelligence detection, driven by proactive monitoring and customized threat response. Traditionally, organizations have established a security operations center where a security information and event management, or a SIM solution, is used for monitoring security events and identifying incidents, and logs from important application systems, security devices, and tools are integrated with the SIM solution. Next generation security operations center for cybersecurity enhances the capability with the aim of achieving real-time threat intelligence-driven monitoring. For this purpose, threat reached from various service providers can be directly integrated with the SIM solution, as well as specialized security point solutions such as data leakage prevention solutions, vulnerability management tools, APT solutions, GRC solutions, database activity monitoring solutions, antivirus solutions, policy compliance solutions, DDoS prevention solutions, and others can also be integrated with the SIM. Not only do these integrations with the SIM solution give an integrated view of cybersecurity risks to the organization, but also allows for correlating events and data from multiple point solutions, enabling better situational awareness and more effective response. Now, any program cannot be termed as effective without proper governance, program management, tracking, and reporting. So an organization structure with clear roles and responsibilities for cybersecurity should be defined, along with the supporting policies, processes, and procedures. Key performance indicators and key risk indicators should also be measured, tracked, and reported. Communication protocols in the event of a breach should be established, as well as guidance from and reporting to external authoritative agencies should be followed. And last but not least, it is important to ensure that a cybersecurity-aware culture is established within the organization, as well as people handling cybersecurity roles have adequate experience and training. Some of the key initiatives that can be taken as part of the cybersecurity program include asset identification, risk assessments, access management, configuration patch management, communication security, resiliency management, security devices and solutions implementations, measuring and monitoring control effectiveness. These initiatives can be taken from a preventive standpoint. In order to detect cyber attacks, it is important to have log management in place to perform network traffic analysis, vulnerability assessment, and penetration testing exercises regularly and periodically. Subscribing to threat intelligence feeds and integrating them with the SIM solution. Conducting continuous security monitoring, having effective situational awareness, and conducting compromise assessments. In order to effectively respond to cyber threats, it is vital that a threat intelligence security operations center is implemented, as well as there is a subscription for a breach response 911 type of service that can be called in for timely containment as well as more effective response. It should also be noted that the security incident response team should be connected with the corporate risk response team to ensure that the entire situational awareness is perceived from a holistic standpoint, as well as the risk response decisions are taken in the context of an overall enterprise risk management program. Moving forward, one of the key challenges in implementing an effective cybersecurity program is the integration of specialized point solutions. In this figure, we depict a sample point solution conceptual integration architecture, where you can notice that many solutions are integrated with the SIEM solution, the DLP solution, and the Archer GRC solution. For example, Arbor, which is a DDoS protection solution, Airtight, which is a wireless security solution, FireEye, which is an advanced persistent threat protection solution, Semantic Endpoint, McAfee antivirus, IBM SourceFire, McAfee IPSs are integrated with the same solution. The email servers from McAfee and Symantec are integrated both with the SIM and DLP. The proxy and net witness are also integrated with the DLP and the SIM. The net witness is integrated with Archer GRC. The Qualys Guard and FortiDB for vulnerability management and database security, respectively, are integrated with Archer GRC solution, including the Symantec and Red Seal policy compliance automation solution, also being integrated with the Archer GRC. So the Archer GRC solution, the SIM solution, can form as a bedrock for automating your cybersecurity program and ensuring that the intelligence is received from multiple devices for effective incident identification, analysis, reporting, and response. Moving on, why is it important for to consider RSA Archer? RSA Archer GRC solution provides an automated framework that can interlink policies, assets, risk, controls, and incidents. It provides a single platform to bring together the threat feeds from both internal and external sources. It also allows to integrate multiple security solutions such as SIEM, the APT tools, DLP, IDAM, forensics tools, etc. Archer GRC also comes with readily available content such as incident response procedures, technical baseline controls, and information security procedures built into the Archer. RSA Archer also provides code-free workflow management that can be used for generating alerts, notifications, triggering events, escalation reminders, and so on. The benefit of RSA Archer from a reporting standpoint includes real-time dashboards as well as customized reports, and also drill down by business hierarchy based on where the risk is applicable to which entities, to which line of businesses, to which particular assets. With this, I would like to hand over to my colleague, Vikram, who would be walking through in more detail on how to automate the cybersecurity program using RSA Archer GRC. Vikram, over to you.
Thank you, Tarun. Yeah. Thank you, Tarun, and good afternoon and good evening, everybody on the call. I'll quickly walk you through the solutions and use cases of Archer, which will enable organizations to automate their cybersecurity programs. Now, looking at this screen, we can see there are 7 different solutions which are out-of-box available through Archer. Each of these solutions addresses risk some way or the other. If you look at the first solution, which is IT and security risk, which addresses the cyber security or cyber risk management requirement of an organization. Next, enterprise and operational risk, which addresses the operational risk requirement. Third-party governance basically addresses the third-party risk management activities and requirements. Audit management solution is more towards internal control and audit based upon risk. Now, next, the sector, which addresses the federal and public sector entities risk. Business resiliency is more on business continuity risk. Regulatory and corporate is related to compliance risk. Now, out of these 7 solutions, IT and security risk is the key solution which will be used or which can be used by organizations to automate their cybersecurity program. In short form, it is also known as IT SRM. In addition to IT SRM, we can also use the business resiliency solutions, which also helps in conducting the business impact analysis and business continuity part, just to address those parts in the cybersecurity program. If an organization has these 2 solutions and some of the use cases from these solutions, organizations can very well automate their cybersecurity program. Now, looking at the use cases within each of these solutions, say for IT SRM, IT and security policy program management use case, it allows an organization to document their security policies, standards, controls, and then monitor what is the compliance status against them. IT risk management, next use case, primarily allows an organization to conduct IT risk assessments and monitor them through KPIs, KRIs, and of course generate some automated alerts based upon the thresholds. Now, IT control assurance use case. This use case allows an organization to conduct assessment or conduct their control assessment both manually as well as automated, which can then feed into the risk management solution or compliance management solutions. Next use case is IT security vulnerability program. This use case allows an organization to integrate any vulnerability scanning tool and run their complete vulnerability management program. It can include the patch management piece, it can include the compliance configuration check piece or vulnerability, PT. All those activities can be managed through IT security and vulnerability programs. Next is your security operations and breach management. This use case allows an organization to integrate their SIM solution and run the whole incident management solution or incident management lifecycle through the SIM solution or any other incident coming from any other source. It as well as allows one to take care of the data breach part and complete workflow of SOC, a Security Operations Center. Issue management solution basically is an integration use case which allows an organization to bring any kind of issues, any kind of finding, any kind of gaps, whether it is coming from risk management, whether it is coming from audit management or compliance or any other assessment, vulnerability scannings or security breaches. Through any source, we can club all the findings, we can club all the issues into one solution and then track it. IT regulatory management use case allows an organization to track any new upcoming or any changes in the regulations, how to manage that, how to manage the changes, how to take care of any other modifications or any other influence which is coming from third parties or any other standard. All those changes can be taken through the IT regulatory management. There are two more specific focused use cases, which is for PCI and ISMS. If an organization wants to go for a PCI compliance or ISO 27001 ISMS-based compliance, they can very well use these two use cases, and all of these, both the two use cases are available out of box, don't have to modify much, they can use it and use it as a plug and play and run both their PCI program as well as ISO program. And the next solution, business resiliency, which allows us to conduct the business impact analysis. We can address the incidents management part as well as which is related to business continuity. We have capability to integrate with any mass communication devices which can send alerts and manage the whole call tree part of it. It also captures the business continuity as well as IT disaster recovery plannings, which can send alerts, notifications, and track activities as and when it is required. Now, the whole business resiliency management part is taken care by this solution. So these two solutions are primary basic solutions. If we have, we can use them and we can go ahead with automating our cybersecurity programs. Moving on to next slide. If we look at the components which are required for cybersecurity automation or a successful cybersecurity program, as well as the use cases or the solutions available from Archer. Whichever way, we can look at how they are mapping and how they are addressing these solutions. If we look at the IT security vulnerability program, it helps us to first component, which is asset identification. So we have a customer who's running their vulnerability scan on a daily basis, which can do a discovery scan and come up with IPs. So what all new IPs are added in the network, or if there is any IP which has been removed or which is not visible, which is down, all that information is coming through. So whole asset identification and asset management program can be automated using the IT security vulnerability program. Similarly, for patch management, for VA and PT activities as well, we can integrate the vulnerability scanning tools and get the results out of it into Archer and run the whole life cycle for patch management, as well as conduct the testings, their remediation plans, closure, till the closure. Whole activities can be tracked and managed in the issue management. Next is the business impact analysis. So this is again one of the integrated use cases wherein we can get business impact analysis, bringing in from whether it is for risk purpose, whether it is for business continuity purpose, or it is coming up with the priority for incidents. Whichever way, if we want to use this solution, it can integrate and give a business context to anywhere we want to bring into Archer or any other solutions. Next is IT risk management. Basically, it allows us to conduct the risk assessment with a lot of other information which we can get from, say, business impact analysis or real-time threat intel. We can monitor key risk indicators. We can look at the control effectiveness. We can even integrate with any other internal or external sources which can feed in information for conducting risk assessment. Any kind of experts, their advisors, their information, all that can be bring into Archer risk management, and then we can take a well-informed decision regarding risk assessment activities. Next is our security incident management. So this solution allows us to integrate and bring in any kind of incidents, whether it is coming from, or any kind of a gap basically, which can come from the SIM solutions, which can come from the any incident management tool or any ticketing solution which can get us any new incident coming up, any business continuity activity, any kind of even KPI, KRI, if we see a threshold is reached, we can consider that as an incident and bring it into it. And we can bring in any kind of manual incidents informed by anybody over a mail. Those things can also bring into security incident management, and then we can run the whole life cycle of security incident management. Moving to next is the IT control assurance, which allows us to conduct assessments both manually as well as automatically, and we can look at the capability or the strength of controls, where we stand, where we lag, what all areas we need to improve further. Plus, if it is integrated with issue management, we can track it till the closure. Next, resiliency management. It takes care of the complete business continuity as well as ITDR part of it. So we can automate whole workflow and manage it through this application. Security operations and breach management is an application which allows us to integrate with SIM solution, or we can integrate it with any other security solution, security devices which are generating any kind of alert, any kind of incident, any kind of information which can utilize to take care of our information security incidents or issues. So this mapping is a out-of-box information. It is not necessary that we have to integrate these tools just with these mapping. We can add further applications, we can add further solutions to it, and then we can enhance further. We can make our solution more integrated, more intact. Now, looking at, so moving on to the next slide. So this is more of a deep dive of the IT SRM solution, wherein we can see the left-hand side part which builds the business context part. There is a whole relationship which is getting built from business hierarchy to protection services to business operations, processes, what all informations are required, who all are key persons into that, what all applications which are supporting those business processes, services, and the IT infrastructure beneath that, what all devices, what all applications, virtual facilities, all those basic business context part is getting stored or maintained at this level. So once we have this whole structure ready, then we can map it to anything. Looking at the corporate objective and IT policies part, that sorry, Anupam, go back. Yeah. So authoritative sources. So this solution takes care of the governance part, which provide us input from regulatory bodies, where we can take input from any best practices, where we can refer to our internal policies and come up with a unique set of controls which organization has to follow. Same controls can then be tested manually as well as automated. Once they are tested, then we move on to the integrated or a common platform of findings and remediations part. Now, all the issues are getting tracked and getting integrated with the risk assessment, wherein we are getting all the gaps into risk register, as well as we are getting into information into the risk register through our threat intel, any other kind of a vulnerability scan, any other information from the automated tools which can feed us, which can give us any kind of a metric, any kind of a information which is helpful for conducting or taking a right decision for the risk assessment activities. The lower part is more on the incident management. Once we have any incident or any event identified as a security breach, we can take care of through investigations, we can integrate any forensic tools, we can do the whole life cycle of incident management. And all these three solutions are getting the business context coming from the business impact application. So this is an out-of-box available solution which we can use directly. Organization doesn't have to do much modification. However, if they want to make it more stringent, they want to make it more customized according to their requirement, they can change and they can integrate more solutions into it, and we can move it. Yeah. So moving to the next slide, which is where we are taking a smaller section of the whole ITSRM. This is one application we are trying to show, which is related to the SIM solution, how an SIM solution is integrated in Archer, and then how it is helping us to resolve the issues. So if we look at the infrastructure part, the corner left-hand side figure, it is showing all the logs coming from the security devices, the IT infrastructure, into the SIM solution, where all the logs are getting analyzed, they are reported, they are configured, and they are looked at through the rules whether it has been qualified as an incident or it is not. Once it is qualified as an incident, it gets into an alert, and then that comes into Archer. So Archer gets one information from the SIM solution that it is an incident. Archer gets another solution from the business context part, the enterprise solution we have in Archer, which gives us the business hierarchy, product, services, business processes, operations, applications, devices, which part is getting impacted, which information is getting impacted, which function, which division, or which department is getting impacted because of that incident, and how to resolve it. So once business context has been built, it brings that in automatically. So both the things are happening on a real-time basis once we have all the information, and then we can prioritize and address that incident through a complete life cycle of incident management. We can integrate any kind of investigating tools, any kind of forensic tools as well to do a deep dive into incident activity. So with this, we'll hand over it to our RSA Khalid. So our RSA partner, he will be.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're located. A quick introduction. My name is Khalid Majid. I'm the GRC technology consultant with RSA, looking after RSA Archer, which is our GRC technology platform. Thank you, everyone, for your time and for joining this session. Before I start, I would just like to thank my colleagues from Aujas for organizing this webinar, and start with a quick overview. So RSA at a glance, basically. For everyone who is familiar with RSA or has heard about RSA, RSA is a security organization or security division of Dell Technologies. We have around 30,000 customers worldwide, 48 out of the Fortune 50 corporations, 92 out of the Fortune 100 corporations worldwide. This includes customers from cross verticals such as manufacturing, defense, financial institutions, healthcare, transportation, telecom, and energy. So it's quite a global mix worldwide. Archer specifically, as one of our product lines or products in our portfolio, has been named a leader across 4 of the Gartner Magic Quadrants, which they release on an annual basis. Before we divulge into the demo itself, just to explain, or I'd like to share basically the RSA's vision and strategy around how we can help organizations deliver what we call business-driven security. So as a context or as a term, business-driven security has been introduced recently or coined by RSA. I'd like just to explain why we have come to that term, or how we have come to that term, and what we are doing basically to help organizations achieve a solid business-driven security and establish a business-driven security in the context of cyber security and risk management in their organizations. So as RSA, we got to speak to a number of CISOs and security teams worldwide and globally throughout the fiscal year 2016. And here's what we are hearing basically. We understand that we're dealing with a number of focused adversaries with creativity, patience, and persistence. These people are unpredictable. They have a wide range of tools at their disposal, and they do basically what, unfortunately, organizations worldwide don't do. They share this information. They share the knowledge. They carry on their attack campaigns until they are successful. They are dealing with, we're also dealing with a growing attack surface, basically, providing different tools and elements and access points to those adversaries to access our networks, breach it. And this is a result of the growing technologies that are provided, such as cloud, mobile, and Internet of Things, basically. So this has resulted in a number of results that we have come to as a result of our survey. There are around 70% of the organizations who have reported that they have had a security incident that has negatively impacted their operations in the past 12 months, which is not a very small number. 90% of those organizations were not satisfied with how quickly they could detect and investigate attacks. And as a result, based on our estimation, 80% of the CISOs are completely rethinking and revamping their security strategy for the upcoming years. Now, the technology problem is actually a business problem. It's not a technology problem anymore. This is a result of convergence, attack sophistication, complexity, as well as now the CEO and the board inspection is more involved than ever in those attacks. To sum it up, ironically, the complexity of the solutions that we are implementing, whether those are detective or preventative or blocking technologies that we're putting in, has actually contributed towards enlarging the problem. Most organizations have a large collection of tools implemented over time. They don't actually understand what the tools are doing, what are they protecting actually, and again, all of this is contributing toward a major problem, which is creating what we call a gap of grief. So despite all of the money, the technology, the people, the skills that we are investing in technology, it's too difficult to put security details in business context fast enough. So both the security leaders and the business leaders want to understand to what degree security incidents are impacting business continuity, intellectual property, how is it contributing toward the enterprise and operational risks, and organizations such as reputational and operational risks, among other things. The truth is, the CEOs and the boards don't really care about whether a breach was caused by an Angular toolkit, SQL injections, etc., exploiting a vulnerability in Internet Explorer. They don't really care about that. All they care is about the overall impact to the business over time. So what is needed to be done is to express the details of security in the language of business risk. The inability to do so is what we call the gap of grief. And this is the gap that stands in the way of being able to answer the most critical question when a breach occurs: how bad is it? So to do so, we're going to talk today about how Archer, or RSA Archer, security operations components or use cases would help organizations do so. Earlier in the presentation, my colleagues have explained the concept of Archer as a GRC platform and how it's broken down into multiple solutions and domains. More specifically, we'll focus on the area of IT security and risk management. as a domain, and under that there are the two use cases, which are the security incident management, as well as the security operations and breach management use cases. So I'll explain more around the use cases as we progress with the demo. But before that, an introduction to the platform itself for those who don't know who aren't familiar with the platform. I'm currently logged into an Archer instance, which has some data into it. I'm currently showing one of the solution use cases or areas, which is the security operations management at the top. I'm presented with a dashboard basically, and with Archer there are a number of pre-built dashboards that address a number of different personas or roles in the organization, or people who you would meet operating in a security operations center or in a critical incident response center, whatever the terminology or name is. You'll typically find a SOC manager, an incident coordinator, an L1 or L2 incident handler, and probably you would like to also involve the IT executives and the IT help desk if there are any remediation or patching actions that need to be taken by these individuals. Each dashboard contains a number of elements or containers or I-views basically. These elements are interactive elements which can be resized, adjusted, and these elements contain a number of pre-built reports basically that reflect information and data that is relevant to the security operations, such as threat metrics or incident metrics, security tools efficacy, which is basically how efficient those tools were in detecting, preventing, or resolving an incident based on the number of incidents that they were utilized in. All of those reports are interactive, they're drillable, and are updated in real time. So as soon as an incident is created or has been progressed or escalated, a priority has changed, an action has been created, the reports and dashboards would reflect that immediately to provide real-time visibility into what incidents or security or cyber incidents the organization is facing and what the SOC team is doing to investigate and remediate those incidents. As I said, these are pre-built dashboards targeted at pre-built personas within Archer. Of course, any organization could add or amend those roles and dashboards and reports to their liking and requirements without any coding. The point is of providing this provides best practice out-of-the-box content, which cuts down the time of delivering value to the organizations, establish quick wins, and contribute towards the concept of rapid deployment basically. As I said, each dashboard would have a different set of reports that is geared towards the person or the persona who's logged in to the system. For example, an L1 incident handler would have reports, a set of reports or dashboards that are more focused towards the new incidents that are coming in, the incidents that are being handled by that incident handler, the incidents that are handled by status of those incidents, by threat category. So it provides insight towards the tasks and the work that the L1 incident handler is managing. Similarly, the same thing applies to an L2 incident handler. An incident coordinator role would be more or less to handle the shift handover between, if you have multiple shifts operating, if you're operating a 24/7 SOC, then you will need an incident coordinator to make sure that there's proper handover of incidents from one shift to the other, basically. This is one type of interface that we are looking at, basically a dashboard with reports that's targeted to certain personas. Another type of data presentation or information presentation is through what we call a task-driven interface. And what this is basically a workspace which is broken down into three primarily areas. The first one is a list of tasks that are assigned to the user. So typically if you have someone who has, let's say, a remediation task that needs to take, or a finding that has been generated that needs to be closed, or a certain new risk assessment that needs to be conducted, or a control to be tested or fixed, for example, as a result of an incident, it would be displayed on the first panel on your left-hand side, where you have a description of what the task is, a due date. If the due date is overdue, then it's going to be highlighted in red. A priority also indicating the highest priority tasks would be moved to the top, lowest ones will be moved to the bottom of the queue. And by clicking on the task itself, you drill down to the underlying layer of data, carry out your task, and submit basically. The second panel is kind of an audit trail, which lists all of the activities that were taken taken out by the user, as well as any notifications that were triggered by the system or by Archer, notifying certain users of certain actions or tasks that need to be taken, or changes in certain criteria, for example, that needs to be brought to the attention of certain individuals. The last panel is basically a smaller view of the dashboard that we have looked at a few minutes ago, and this is like a personal area by which the user would create their quick links or shortcuts basically to certain actions that they need to carry out. So if I'm a user who usually assigns remediation actions or plans, or creates or documents a new incidents within the system, or initiates a new risk assessments, I could just quickly click on one of those links, and it would just create a blank form where I can document the purpose of the assessment, for example, who is it assigned to, what am I assessing against, etc., depending on what the short link or quick link directs to, or which application it directs to. The other section or part of the panel is an area where you can bring in your own reports that you are interested in viewing on a day-to-day basis, basically, rather than looking at it from a dashboard perspective, but on your personal, let's say, dashboard or panel. So this is a quick overview of how data is presented, or the output, basically, how is it presented within the system. I will now go into the actual security operations management solution or use cases that we're looking at. So this component is basically, or this solution is made up of three main areas. But before that, I'll just explain what security operations is, or what SecOps is in the context of Archer. So this is basically a solution that is provided for enterprises that are protecting their digital information. So SecOps provides a framework to prepare, investigate, and respond to threats by aligning people, processes, and technology into a common framework based on best practice and standards. Now, as I said, this framework, or SecOps, is made up of three primary components, or three primary solutions. The incident management solution, the breach response, the data breach response solution, and the SOC program management solution. Now, these are the three solutions that make up the security operations offering. But of course, there is an underlying layer, which, as highlighted by my colleagues, that needs to probably be brought in before managing those, or before leveraging or utilizing those solutions, such as in the case of the enterprise infrastructure, the organizational hierarchy, basically. So the organization, how is it structured, what divisions fall under a certain company, what business units are related to it, and of course, what devices or assets are being leveraged, applications and facilities. We refer to those elements as the foundational layer, and we call them business and IT infrastructure. If you remember, initially when we started the discussion, we said that the problem is organizations are unable to bring in the business context and business intelligence fast enough. That's why building this foundational layer within Archer and enriching or infusing this business context and intelligence into incidents enables organizations to quickly understand the extent of an incident, what is it impacting on the organization, how do we prioritize actually incidents based on actual business intelligence and business context. So if I go back to my SOC Manager dashboard, and from there I can drill down into the different components or solutions that we have mentioned. So I could drill down to the incidents from the dashboard itself, or I could expand the solutions area, click on an incident, and then this will bring up a list of all of my incidents that have been documented in the system. So clicking on the incidents would bring up all of the incidents that have been fed into the system with a high-level understanding of what the incident ID that has been created is, a summary of the incident, how many days it has been open, what's the priority of it, who's handling it as an incident handler, who's the coordinator handling it, and the status of the incident itself. On the left-hand side, of course, I can filter out those incidents by a number of criteria or fields. Out of the box, these are the ones that are available, but of course, any field that is available in the incident can also contribute towards the filtering also mechanism. just to highlight again, there's also a built-in reporting engine within Archer. So all of the reports that you have seen on the dashboard, the front end, are created by a built-in reporting engine within Archer. So in this case, you don't really need a third-party reporting system or a third-party reporting repository or engine to do the reporting for you. It's all built in within Archer, and you can create your own reports out of the box. The final tab, which is the reports tab, is basically nothing but a list of the pre-built reports that we have within Archer. So as I said, there is around 1,000+ scanned reports that come with Archer across all of the use cases, and you can leverage those depending on the use case that you are using. So there are a number of reports that are pre-built. You can create your own. In this case, I'll just go back. I'm not going to go into the reports. I'm going to go back to the incidents and see how do we align the incident investigation process or documentation investigation process. So I'll just drill down into one of the incidents that we have created into the system and go through the life cycle of how an incident handler would go about documenting the details of the incident, responding to it, remediating it, doing the forensic analysis, the impact analysis, and then remediation and the results. So I'm currently logged into an incident record at the top, and you can see that this is one of our security incidents. You of course have a number of options at the top of creating a new incident, copying the currently existing incident, saving any changes that you have made to the incident, only looking at the incident in view mode, and then deleting the incident if you have options to do that. I'm logged in as an admin. That's why I have access to the full options and capabilities. In certain cases, you can enable and disable or gray out certain aspects of what you can do with the incidents based on predefined rules and permissions that you can define within Archer's access control wizard. Of course, at the top, you also have options to export details of this incident outside of Archer, print out the details of the incidents, and email them to another colleague within the SOC, for example. So let's look at what basically makes an incident, or what kind of details do we capture within an incident. Within Archer, there are a number of sections. Again, this is pre-built content based on best practice. Certain organizations might have some variances in terms of how they build their incident and breach response framework, which can be adjusted or amended within Archer without any coding, of course, as part of a professional services engagement delivered by Aujas. So the incident summary section would capture general details around the incident, such as the title of the incident, the summary, the details of the incident itself, where is it coming from, and that's covered by my colleagues from Aujas. Archer is really vendor agnostic, so in terms of where the incidents or the alerts are coming from, is not really locked to a certain technology or certain source. We have pre-built integrations that could integrate with multiple sources of data, and we could bring those data into Archer, regardless of where they are coming from. At the bottom, you can see that there are certain aspects within the record that we can address or we can update. There are certain other fields that cannot be that are locked and are calculated by the system. For example, when the system was created, when was it last modified, when was it closed. These are all fields that are calculated by the system based on progress of the status of the record. The reason is these are things that you don't want certain users to be able to play around with or change, so that you can generate meaningful metrics or KPIs on your dashboards and understand, all right, how many P3 incidents do we have? How long have certain incidents been open? Tracking those against certain SLAs for P1, P2, or P3 incidents, or certain categories of incidents. So these will give you meaningful and real-time data in terms of how the SOC is performing, how are the analysts doing, which ones are overutilized, which ones are underutilized, what are the typical types of categories or incidents or threats we are susceptible to, and so on and so forth. So those are certain fields that can be locked and calculated only by the system. Under the incident status, of course, there are details that are captured, such as the status of the incident, and you can see that there are a number of stages by which an incident goes through. So once an incident is created, it becomes new. Once it's assigned to an L1 or L2 handler, it's assigned. In progress means that there is some work that's being done. If it goes beyond a certain SLA or timeline, it can be escalated. It can also be returned back to an L1 or L2 handler. If there is a remediation that needs to be done, all of this would be reflected as we progress the incident itself. Each incident, of course, would have an incident owner, it will go to a certain queue so it can be picked up by one or multiple other owners. You would also have an assigned coordinator. If there's one or multiple coordinators, there will be a coordinator who would be assigned to the incident so that they can manage the shift handover basically. At the bottom, of course, we also look at things such as incident escalation status. If an incident has been escalated, to whom is it escalated, what's the status of that. We also capture details such as the initial threat classification, so what the threat category is, threat actor, the threat vector, and you can see that this is the terminology is aligned to the various basically terminology and taxonomy framework. The target asset type, so what's the target asset that we have, and again, this builds on top of more or less the enterprise or the foundational layer that we talked about earlier. There's an option, of course, to override the priority of the incident based on certain investigations and understanding of the impacted asset is highly critical to us. There are some critical information or applications that are being supported there, so we can override the actual criticality that is assigned initially to the incident itself. Related mapping section is basically where you can link, or there's a linkage between this incident, this specific incident that has been created to other security incidents directly or indirectly, as well as other ongoing investigations which can be conducted by multiple other teams or could be part of other incidents at the bottom. Of course, at the very bottom, there's a security incident history log, and what this is basically an audit trail of everything that has been done from the time that the incident has been created up until a given point of time. So you would have a date and timestamp, the user who has made an action on the incident record, what field was changed, what was the updated and the old value basically. And of course, there's an option to compare the current record version with the earlier record versions of the record in a similar fashion to what we do with Word, basically, where you track changes. So that's the first tab, basically. That's only information gathering, understanding what the incident is all about, who is assigned to it, certain timelines and timestamps on the incident. Now we come to the next step, which is basically understanding what has resulted in the incident being generated. So you have a number of alerts that's being fed into Archer from any SIM technology that's coming in. At the moment, I don't have any, but I'll link one of those alerts and I'll show you how the data is being captured. So how the data would look like from an alert, it's basically capturing the raw data or the metadata that's coming in from our or the low alert data that's coming in from a certain technology. So in the security alerts, you can see it could be one alert or multiple alerts. We capture details such as when was it created, where is it coming from, the ID, a timestamp, the severity level. All of this is something that is not something that's created within Archer, but rather fed into it from a source, basically. Under that, we capture the alert metadata, sorry, such as the alert category, the action, the raw alert data that's coming in. If we capture also session IDs, these would be also brought into Archer. The next tab within the alert data, within the alert security alerts would be the alert data itself. So we capture details such as what's the source ID or what's the source device that's trying to connect or trying to access our network, basically, the destination or the target ID within the organization. And again, any device location that are captured within the alerts is also captured in the device location data area. The additional device details would capture things such as the hostname alias, threat category, threat description, a referrer if someone has referred this data. Any user data is also captured over here, such as the source and the destination user. So you have full visibility and understanding of where the alert is coming from and what is it trying to access in the organization. If there are any attachments also that have been, for example, if there's an email that's been communicated that contains special attachments, that could also be attached as part of the alert data or the alert summary or security alerts application. So the incident handler would just come and understand what's going on, understand what the full details or context of what has resulted in this incident being created from a security alerts perspective. And the next step would be for the incident handler would be to go in and start doing their actually incident response task. Once they have identified the type of the incident and the category of it, they would probably start carrying out a number of incident response procedures. Now, within Archer, there's a library of out-of-the-box 10 incident response procedures, which include, for example, kind of incident, another 9 incident responses. These are out of the box based on best practice and standards and aligned to standards. If the organization have their own playbooks or certain they have a standard set of incident response tasks, they can also do that. This helps organizations streamline the way that they identify incidents, they respond to incidents in a standardized approach, basically. So the incident response procedures would basically have a number of tasks under them, indicating what needs to be done. So you'll have the general information section around the procedure itself, the description of it, where is it coming from, what category does it address, tracking of how many tasks have been completed under that specific incident response procedure. As you can see at the bottom, you would have a tracking ID for each task, what the task is, what you need to do, who's assigned to it, and of course a tracking of the status of the task itself, and any analyst notes would be captured in the task itself. So this is basically where you can carry out the incident response procedures to a specific incident carried out by an L1 or L2 incident handler. The next tab is basically an incident journal, which captures the progress that the incident 1 handler or incident 2 handler has carried out. Again, given the number of tasks or the incident response procedures assigned to a certain incident, the user might not be able to complete all of the tasks, so they keep an incident journal of all of the tasks that have been carried out, the results of those tasks, which milestone in the incident response procedure they have reached, any attachments that is here relevant will be documented within the incident journal area. Again, any forensic analysis, whether network forensic or host forensic analysis that are carried out by the L1 or L2 incident handler, are also documented in the same place of the incident itself. Again, this gives organizations quick access to this kind of data and understanding of what kind of analysis has been done, what are the findings there, is there an inclusion that has been confirmed. All of the data will be captured over here. These host forensic analysis and network forensic analysis would definitely be carried out of Archer with other tools and technologies that would be carrying out those kind of analysis. But again, those data can be integrated and brought into Archer so that you can consolidate all of the data in one area, basically, rather than jumping in from one screen to the other, from one technology to the other, from one platform to the other. And again, it becomes very difficult. It becomes very problematic to hand over all of this data and all of the investigations that we have done for certain incidents from one shift to the other if we don't have this kind of consolidation in one place. Once this has been done, once the forensic analysis has been done, whether it involves host or network forensic analysis, the next step would be, of course, understanding the impact of what this has on the organization. So this is broken down into a number of areas, and this is typically what other, let's say, case management system or ticketing systems, or even some technologies do with their kind of primitive kind of case management capabilities or limited capabilities. They don't really go into this area, again, into the impact analysis, again, primarily because of the limitation in terms of how do we collect and aggregate business intelligence and business context, and how do we infuse that data into incidents. So what you would do over here is basically, or what the L1 incident handler would do is analyze the overall business impact of this incident. So what kind of impact will it have? And again, the values that we have over here are out of the box. different organizations would have different criteria by which they define what an insignificant incident has in terms of business impact, distracting, painful, or damaging. This could be measured in terms of dollar values, or it could be measured in terms of if there's an impact on availability of the service or the asset. It could be measured in terms of what's the outage time, for example. If it's anywhere between 1 to 4 hours, then it could be insignificant. If it's between 1 day and 2 days, then it could be catastrophic, for example. The criteria should be defined either through engaging our advanced cyber defense professional service team to build that engagement or that framework, or the organization already has their own a framework which defines what classifies what impacts based on what criteria. And again, you could link this back to what the business loss type is. If this incident has resulted in a business loss type, then what did it impact? Basically, what the loss type is, whether it's operating costs, whether it's response and recovery, brand damage, for example, in certain cases, depending on the type of the incident. Again, we can also link this back to what business units are impacted. And again, this is very important because overall, throughout the year or throughout the quarter or throughout the month, you need to understand how many incidents are we addressing, which ones are targeting which business units, why are those business units being targeted more than others? What do we need to do more if those business units are more, prone to certain risks and incidents? What controls need to go there? What policies might need to be reviewed? What BCDR plans need to be developed, for example, to protect and recover in case of these incidents being, materializing? Of course, there are other areas that we can link to, such as enterprise risks. So these incidents also would link to certain risks in the organization. So we need to understand what risks does it link to, how does it impact those risks. And again, in this case, we don't have any risks that are linked to, but what we can do is click on the lookup button. It will bring up all of the risks that have been documented and identified and assessed earlier as part of an enterprise risk engagement. So, for example, one of the risks that we have identified is access control. So this could impact an access control risk that we have in an organization. So we need to link it to the number of incidents and see, or the specific incidents, and reassess that risk and see how that risk has been, impacted in terms of likelihood or impact values, for example. We also look at confidentiality impact assessments. So if there's any impact from a confidentiality perspective, yes, no, potentially. What's the data loss rating? Again, it's an impact rating on how this has impacted our confidentiality. If there's any data that has been exfiltrated, if this has resulted in a breach or exfiltration of data, then this will invoke the second aspect of, or the second area of Archer, which is the breach response. And again, it will carry out a more or less similar kind of approach by which we identify breaches, involve different teams, do an assessment, respond to the breach. In this case, it will be a broader and a wider involvement of other stakeholders, such as maybe legal, PR, compliance, and other business areas to respond to a breach, for example. We also look at, as I said, integrity impact assessments as well as availability impact assessments. And again, this links to other areas within Archer, as we said, as a GRC platform. In case of impacting availability of a certain service or a product or a business process or an asset, this could escalate to become a crisis. And when this becomes a crisis, you need to invoke certain BCDR plans. The way that this is done today in organizations, this is highly manual, where you need to scramble around, contact find the owners of a certain BCDR plan, activate it manually, probably communicate certain playbooks or documentation to start activating a BCDR plan, and then manually feeding back the data on the progress of the plan itself. Within Archer, because this is an integrated GRC platform, within the same platform, you could integrate this to the other components or areas of Archer, activate a crisis event, or document a crisis event, invoke the plans, track the progress of the plans, all within the same platform. Again, another aspect that the organizations really also miss sometimes is the corporate policy impact assessment. So understanding if this incident had been resulted in certain control failures and certain policy violations. If it has resulted in that, then you just need to click on yes, link it back to which policy, again, because you document your policies, your control procedures and standards within Archer, you could link it back to a specific policy or an area and say, okay, so this is a specific policy that has been, violated. This will trigger a workflow by which this policy needs to be reviewed or updated as a result of this incident. So it's closing basically the whole loop. The incident handling process or response process doesn't end when the incident is closed and the system is patched, but rather doing kind of a post-mortem analysis, understanding what areas of the business were impacted, what areas have failed, and how do we basically make sure that we go towards a more proactive approach by fixing, the issues that have resulted in this incident materializing in the first place. So the impact analysis phase, once that has been done, we also look at the remediation. In case of remediation, then we need to click on either yes or no. If you're saying no, there's no remediation that is required, this is a false incident or not an accurate incident or a near miss, you can need to provide a justification. If you say yes, then this would create a number of findings, and these findings are basically tasks that would hold a remediation action plan that can be assigned to specific users to carry out. This could be IT personnel, business personnel from the organization who need to take certain actions to remediate this incident, basically. Ultimately, the result of the incident itself would be documented in the results tab. And again, this is based on the whole analysis for end-to-end of the incident, declaring if this is a confirmed incident, suspected one, a false positive, or near miss. This is also important to feed them back to the different technologies that are feeding the alerts or creating the alerts that generate the incident. So if there are certain rules or alerts that are triggering, a lot of false positives, then it might be worth looking at those incidents and those alerts and maybe reviewing the rules that have been defined or the correlation rules that have been defined on the technology that is resulting in those incidents, and maybe tweaking them in a way that would drive down the number of false positives so that you can, focus on the needle basically in the haystack. Again, looking at the different categories of the attack categories, again, would help you understand what type of attacks or incidents is the organization suspected to, whether these are opportunistic, targeted ones, or unknown, and what needs to be done to understand better what the attacker is after, and how to prevent or let's say block these kind of attacks going forward. Again, the confidence rating is the confidence rating of the L1 incident handler or the L2 incident handler and the details and information that they have provided as part of the analysis of the incident results. Again, we also document details such as the actors, tactics, and techniques, again, to understand better what type of attacks or tactics or techniques are being used against our organization and what needs to be done to protect against those attacks. The target details, as I said, if there are any details around what the destination IP or the target IP or the target asset within the organization is, this would be captured typically within the target details, the type of the assets, how easy it is to access this, who owns it, the asset hosting type, whether it's internal or external, number of assets that are impacted, and the target person type who owns or who is a custodian of that asset. Last but not least, as I said, we look at not only individual incidents, but also what kind of controls, whether detective, preventative, and investigative controls and technologies and platforms and software that we have used per incident. Which ones were effective, which ones are ineffective, and this basically helps organizations understand where certain technology would fall back in terms of being not effective in certain control types, whether they're being detective or preventive or investigative, so that they can either look at replacing those or enhancing them, and this provides actually justification back to the C-level to understand that, okay, we're using new technologies. These are the number of incidents that have occurred in the past quarter or past year. These technologies have been highly effective. We're more interested in the ones that haven't been effective for these reasons. These are the incidents that have been, documented, and we probably need to look at alternatives or maybe add-ons or things that would complement those technologies. So it makes it much easier to understand where the spending of the CISO or the CIO would go for the next fiscal years, for example. So this would close basically the security incident response and management aspect of it. As I mentioned, the breach response or breach incident response would also fall in somewhere around the same lines of how we manage incidents within Archer. I'm just going to click on breaches, and again we have a number of breach incidents or incidents that have qualified to become a breach, and we can go into one of the records and see what kind of details we capture over here. And again, you would have a different, for example, breach incident response team who would be handling breaches. For example, it could be the same team. As you can see, again, it follows a similar structure where you have a number of tabs that carries you or drives you through the progress of documenting and investigating breaches, responding to those, conducting breach risk assessments, sending out notifications, and involving, as I said, different stakeholders up until the remediation. In this case, there's again a general information section around the breach itself: who reported it, the type of the breach, the name, the description, when was it reported, discovered, and closed, who's the breach incident response team who needs to be involved. As I said, usually in cases of breaches, you would have a wider team or a broader team who would be involved in this, depending on the type of breach, depending on the impact, the extent of it, and what data has been lost, if any. Of course, you can see that this links back to the business unit managers who are involved in or the business unit that has been impacted by the breach, who is the breach response lead, customer support who needs to be involved, legal, public relations, compliance, and IT manager, and other members as seen, as deemed required. The related mapping section would, as I said, the breach would come as a result of a single incident or multiple incidents, if it qualifies to that, and also related investigations that are ongoing as part of this breach itself. The supporting document section captures, any additional documents or attachments, or physical logs or files or documentation that would help with understanding or remediating the breach itself. The next tab would be looking at the data disclosure section. So if there's any data that needs to be disclosed based on certain rules and regulations, again, this is dependent on areas or countries or jurisdictions that organizations operate in. After, for example, once a breach has been discovered, there will be a time gap by which the organization needs to conduct an investigation and then declare what data has been lost, what does it impact, whether it's encrypted, how was it exfiltrated, and this could come up in a certain or specific format, which can be also captured within Archer to manage that data disclosure process. Again, the breach journal, which is similar to the incident journal, which we talked about in the progress of incident response, usually captures what are the steps that were carried out or done by the breach or incident response handler as part of the investigation of the breach itself, and what has been done, what has been stolen, what data has been taken out, how it impacts the organization. It's just a documentation of all the steps and tasks that the analyst has taken out as part of the breach response process. Again, similar to the incident response, they would have an impact analysis section. In this case, in the context of a breach response, we'd be looking at what the regulatory and compliance impact would be on the organization in a subjective kind of rating. Again, predefined values, which can be adjusted towards how the organization rates regulatory impacts. And of course, if you can associate a specific expected, let's say, dollar value or monetary value against the regulatory and compliance assessments, then that's something that would help understand the extent and impact of that breach from a regulatory and compliance perspective, from a legal perspective, if you expect any lawsuits to be taken by certain entities or customers against the organization, and what that would cost the organization, as well as business impact analysis in terms of how would this impact the organization in terms of what loss will it incur. Again, as we see over here, this would also link back to any crisis events. If this loss or this breach results in unavailability or an ability to access certain resources in the organization, this would probably qualify as a crisis, which links back to my BCDR plans that need to be invoked and activated and tracked for progress. usually the next step in the cycle of breach response would be the breach risk assessment. So what impacted regulations were impacted as part of this breach, and again the estimated impact, what the financial estimated impact is based on a breach risk assessment or a questionnaire that is delivered to multiple stakeholders of the organization who would provide their feedback based on the information that was captured as part of this specific breach itself. If there are any notifications that need to be sent out to certain stakeholders or parties in the organization, Archer can also deliver that notification based on a predefined workflow, basically. And in certain cases of breaches, these people will need to be involved, or these groups need to be involved, what notification needs to go out, what details need to go out, and what actions need to be carried out. Of course, the breach tasks, again, is another section as part of our breach incident response area, which captures what tasks have been carried out to understand the extent of the breach, the remediation or limitation of what data has been taken out as part of this breach itself. Again, notifications tab would capture what notifications have been triggered outside of the system of Archer. It keeps an audit trail of all of the notifications that have been sent out from the system or carried out by individual users, and they document all of that. Again, when you want to do a breach report at the end of the day, you need to capture all of those elements, all of this data in a single report and explain to regulators or authorities that these are the steps that we have taken out to investigate the breach, to do a risk assessment, to trigger up certain notifications. All of those will be captured in one area in Archer, basically. That could be exported in a single report to be provided to the authorities or regulators. Ultimately, towards the end of the breach incident response process, again, similar to the incident response workflow, you would look at, or the incident or the breach analyst would look at if remediation is required or is in place. They would say yes or no. If they say no, then they'll need to provide certain justifications. If they say yes, then this would probably generate a number of findings, which would require a number of remediation plans assigned to certain individuals to carry out within the system. So these are basically the two core areas, two out of the three core areas that Archer captures. The third one is around the SOC program management, which addresses a number of areas. Of course, how do we manage shifts? How do we hand over the shifts? A breach response procedure library, which is basically, as I mentioned, comes with 10 out-of-the-box breach response and incident response procedures based on best practice. Of course, as I said, organizations can bring in their own breach and incident response procedures into the library, and this would help basically follow or streamline the process by which analysts and individuals who are involved in incidents or breaches follow the same tasks, repeatable tasks across all the incidents, which makes it much more efficient, quicker, faster to analyze and understand incidents and respond to them. The other aspect would be the security controls. So what security controls are in place, and these are basically, as I said, technologies or platforms or software that we have deployed in our organization or in our SOC, which would be linked back to my incidents or breaches in different capacities, whether they are detective or preventative or investigative. You need to identify those as controls. Probably also to understand how these are performing and how many incidents they use them, and what capacity did they use them, how efficient were they. These are things of these are performance aspects that usually SOC managers and CISOs and CROs would be looking at to understand, as I said, where do we need to invest more? Which technologies are underperforming, for example, or providing little to no value in certain incidents and breaches, for example. Another area would be to understand how much is it costing me initially to invest in this technology, how much is it costing me to run and keep this technology up to date, compared to the value of incidents or breaches, the monetary value of incidents and breaches that are occurring in the organization. So this is a sample of certain technology that we have in place. We capture details such as the annual operational cost, the fixed cost, the efficacy of the control itself, which is measured depending on the number of incidents or calculated based on the number of incidents that have occurred in the organization over a period of time. Again, you can see where it was effective and which security incidents as a detective technology, where it was used as a preventative or investigative technology in certain incidents from an effective point of view, and again, where it was ineffective in certain incidents. So all of those will be linked back to all of the technologies deployed across our organizations, different sites or different areas, basically. Again, under the third area, after the security controls, you would also be able to define your SOC policies. So as I mentioned, if there are any incidents that have resulted in violation of certain policies or certain procedures in the organizations, that loop would need to be closed back so that this doesn't happen again, and would need to feed back into reviewing the policies that we have set up in our SOC or in our organization to be reviewed, updated, and amended as a result of this incidents or breaches occurring in the organization. I think we have closed. I think I have managed to address the three major areas or the use cases that are provided by Archer under security operations management, as well as explain how things would work, why are we doing certain things, and what value would be captured as a result of doing the things a certain way and capturing certain details and infusing that kind of intelligence into incidents or breaches, basically.
Hey, thanks, Khalid. This is thanks. It's really good, detailed demo. Thank you so much for it. I do, just to wrap it up, I have a couple of questions from, there are many questions from the audience, but let me just take two questions because we are running really late. First one is about, the question is, how does RSA Archer compare with the competition? So if you want to compare it with IBM or ServiceNow kind of stuff, what is the, if you want to summarize it in a single sentence, let's say, how do you say, what do you say about RSA and Archer? I know you went through details of it, but if you just want to summarize it, what would that be?
Yes, of course. So what I would say is that there are a number of differentiators here. So I would encourage the asker or the customer also to not look at Archer as a ticketing system or as a case management system. It's more of an orchestration, a platform basically, which would orchestrate the whole operation of your security operations center or critical incident response center. Having said that, also it's not only about managing tickets as they come in or cases as they come in from certain technologies or even embedded within certain technologies. It leverages basically, as I said, the business context, the business intelligence, and the underlying data of what assets are impacted, how are they related to certain applications, to certain business processes, and to certain products and services that the organization is offered. That kind of understanding of how this would, that end-to-end impact across the organization is not something that you would find with the traditional or the current tools in the market. The value of this is being able to prioritize those incidents based on the actual impact, and criticality of the organization, not based on technical terms of a P1 or a P2 or P3 kind of incidents or a certain severity of incidents. That's one aspect, or that's the second aspect. The third aspect is once an incident becomes a breach, or once an availability of a certain asset is compromised, what do I do? This would qualify as a crisis. How would I go about invoking or declaring this as a crisis, and how do I go about invoking certain BCDR plans? As I mentioned throughout my presentation, having Archer as a centralized GRC platform would enable organizations to automate that whole process of declaring crises, invoking BCDR plans, and tracking how those plans are performing within the same platform, which you wouldn't be able to do with, as I said, the other examples that you have mentioned, or the other tools that are in the market. Other aspects would be, as mentioned by the presentation, there are 6 also key items that you have mentioned. Why Archer? Why RSA Archer? One of them is configurability and flexibility of the tool to adapt to certain needs, requirements, preferences, and methods by which organizations actually respond to incidents or breaches and manage the SOC operations. Other than that, there's the out-of-the-box content and expertise. As I mentioned, the security operations management solution is aligned and leverages best practices such as the BERS framework, as you have seen throughout the demo. Also look at standard response processes from the NIST US CERT, for example, as well as building and leveraging our own RSA and AMC CERT expertise with around 25 plus processes within Archer. So all of that contributes towards considering Archer for security operations as a centralized let's say heart of your security operations, rather than trying to fix and match and integrate point solutions to each other, which really becomes very difficult to do so. And it's cumbersome. Where some organizations have tried to do so, they have failed, and it didn't work really.
Okay, thank you. The second question we have is related to Aujas and Archer. So why would someone come to Aujas from an implementation, from a services perspective? Why should, what is that about Aujas and RSA that's the differentiation? I think that's the question. Vikram, are you there, or Khalid, do you have?
Let me take
Vikram.
that. Yeah, Anupam.
Okay.
So we have a very strong relationship with the RSA, and it's from the inception of Aujas we have formed, and it's not only Archer. So we have been having good partnership with RSA to multiple other security devices and solutions as well. As far as RSA Archer is concerned, we have been working as a preferred partner with them in the Middle East, India, and now even in US region, and which is actually backed by a state-of-the-art COE specifically for RSA Archer, and we have a good team of 100% all the team members who are RSA Archer certified. From an experience perspective, within the Middle East region itself, we have now close to 20 plus implementation experiences and customers just for Archer. So with this, our experience and strong, long relationship with RSA, I believe Aujas still remains the preferred partner for implementing RSA Archer.
Okay, thank you. The third question I have is, so if it is, not everyone is starting from scratch, right? I mean, you would already have an RSA Archer implementation. And so what about the maintenance side of it? What about the configurations and fine-tuning? Is it something that Aujas can help people with? And what are your comments on that? Yeah,
of course. So Aujas doesn't believe like RSA Archer or any rather JRC tool is a one-point solution. It is kind of a journey, and every organization is at a different maturity level. So some organization might have started with Archer, which they have implemented and they are using it. They want to grow further. They want to enhance their implementation further, as well as it is also possible they want to maybe modify it further and do it better for your customization towards their organization requirements. So Aujas do provide that kind of a service. We normally go back to our customers, look at their current state of Archer implementation, suggest them further improvement, best practices, what new have come in Archer, how they can further enhance it, or since Archer itself is a modular implementation, it is not just like one or two modules if they have implemented, they can further go ahead implement more modules, more use cases. So we can add on top to what they have currently today. And of course, so it depends on customer's requirement as well. So at times customer might even face a challenge in terms of using Archer, so we provide them the offshore services as well. So managed service starting from say managed service, implementation, maintenance, and even handing over or giving a training to them how to manage Archer. We do all kind of services.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think we need to wrap up now. There are a couple more questions, but it's getting really late. We'll get to them on an on-one basis. Thank you guys. Thanks for a lovely session. Thanks to Khalid. Thanks to Vikram. Thanks to Tarun. And thanks for everyone attending to today's session. I really appreciate your time. I know we ran more than the allocated time, but hopefully it was valuable to you. Thank you so much.